My husband thought I was stupid. He thought I would never notice the money going missing. He was wrong. I found the notebook in his desk drawer, page after page of my signature. Written by his hand, practiced until perfect. He kissed me goodbye every morning. He told me he loved me every night. And all the while, he was stealing from me, not from us, from me. The bank said the checks looked real. Of course they did. He had turned my name into his weapon. You want to know how I caught him? You want to know what I did next? Keep watching, because this is not the story you think it is. My name is Sarah, and this is my story. It started on a Tuesday. A normal, boring, gray Tuesday in October. I was sitting in my car outside the grocery store, waiting for the rain to slow down. My two kids, Emma and Leo, were in the back seat, arguing about which cartoon to watch on my phone. Emma is 7. She has curly brown hair like I used to have before life made me too tired to brush it properly. Leo is 5. He has his father's blue eyes, which used to be a comfort to me and now are just a reminder. I was tired, the kind of tired that lives in your bones, the kind of tired that coffee cannot fix. My husband, Mark, had been working late a lot lately. He said it was a big project at his construction company. I believed him. I always believed him. I decided to check my bank account on my phone. I do this every few days just to see if the automatic bills have gone through. Rent, electricity, the car payment, the kids' school lunches. Normal stuff. I typed in my password and waited. The little circle spun for a few seconds. In those few seconds, I had no idea that my entire life was about to crack open. At first, everything looked fine. The balance was around $4,000. That was normal for this time of the month. I had done some freelance graphic design work for a local bakery, and the payment had cleared. But then I scrolled down to the recent transactions. My eyes caught something strange. A withdrawal of $500 3 days ago. I didn't remember taking out $500. I thought maybe Mark had used my card for something. He did that sometimes. He would forget his wallet, borrow my debit card, and promise to pay me back. He never did, but I never pushed it. We were married. What was mine was his, right? That is what I told myself. That is what I wanted to believe. Then I saw another withdrawal. $200, a week before that. And another $300 2 weeks before that. They were all small enough not to raise a red flag if you were just glancing. 100 here, 200 there, but I was looking closely now. My heart started to beat a little faster. I could feel it in my throat. I added them up in my head. Over the last 2 months, almost $2,000 had been taken from my personal checking account. Not our joint account. My personal account. The one my father had set up for me when I was 16, the one I put my freelance graphic design money into. My father is gone now. He passed away 3 years ago from a heart attack. That account was the last thing he gave me, and someone was bleeding it dry. I turned around and looked at Emma and Leo. Emma was holding her stuffed bunny, the one she has had since she was a baby. Leo was making his stuffed dog dance on the foggy window. They were fine. They were safe. They did not know that their mother's heart was pounding like a drum. I forced a smile, but my mind was racing. Who could be doing this? The bank would have records. I would call them when I got home. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was a bank fee I didn't understand. Maybe I was being paranoid. I drove home in a daze. The rain was still falling, and the windshield wipers made a steady, hypnotic sound. Swish, 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 like a heartbeat, like a countdown. Emma asked if we could have pizza for dinner. I said yes without thinking. Leo asked if Daddy would be home early. I said I didn't know. The truth was, I didn't know anything anymore. That night, Mark came home around 9. He smelled like coffee and sawdust and a little bit of sweat. He kissed my forehead the way he always did. It used to make me feel safe. That night, it made me feel nothing. Hey babe, long day, kids asleep? Yeah, I said. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to watch a show about house renovation. I wasn't seeing any of it. Hey Mark, did you borrow my debit card last week? For something? He didn't even pause. He was already walking to the fridge to get a beer. The fridge door opened with a soft whoosh. He pulled out a bottle, twisted off the cap, and took a long drink. Oh, yeah, I think so. I needed to buy some supplies for the job site. I'll transfer the money tomorrow. He always said that. Tomorrow never came. But this time, I decided to push. I stood up from the couch and walked to the kitchen. I leaned against the counter, watching him. Which supplies? You usually use the company card." He shrugged, his back to me. He was looking at his phone. The light from the screen lit up his face. He looked tired too, but there was something else, something tight around his mouth. The company card was frozen. Some accounting thing. "Don't worry about it, Sarah. I said I'll pay you back." I wanted to believe him, I really did, but something felt wrong. It wasn't just the money. It was the way he didn't turn around. The way his shoulders were tight. The way he changed the subject to how the kids had been that day. He asked if Emma had finished her reading homework. He asked if Leo had eaten all his vegetables. Normal questions, loving questions. But they felt like shields. I let it go, but I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, listening to him breathe. He fell asleep within minutes. He always did. I envied that once. Now I hated it. How could he sleep so soundly while my mind was on fire? I stared at the ceiling. The ceiling had a small crack in it, near the light fixture. I had never noticed that crack before. I counted the seconds between Mark's breaths. I thought about my father. I thought about the account he had set up for me. He had told me, "Sarah, always have your own money. Always. Love is beautiful, but love does not pay the bills." I had nodded and smiled and thought he was being old-fashioned. Now I realized he was being wise. The next morning, after Mark left for work, I did something I had never done before. I went through his desk. It was a small, messy desk in the corner of our bedroom. It was made of dark wood, and it had 3 drawers. The top drawer was full of pens and batteries and old phone chargers. The second drawer had his personal papers. I told myself I was just looking for a pen. But I opened that second drawer anyway. My hands were shaking. There were old receipts, a broken watch, and a small leather notebook. The notebook was brown, the size of a checkbook. I picked it up. It felt heavy, even though it was small. I opened the notebook. On the first page was my signature, not a copy, a practice. He had written my name over and over again, trying to get it right. Sarah, Sarah, Sarah. Some of them were shaky, some were too big, some were too small. The letters were uneven, like a child learning to write. But on the bottom of the page, there was a perfect copy. It looked exactly like my signature on my checks. The same slant, the same loop on the S, the same little flick at the end of the H. My heart stopped. I mean, it literally felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just stared at that notebook. I flipped to the next page. More practice signatures. And the next. And the next. Pages and pages of my name. My name, written over and over by the man who had promised to love me. He wasn't borrowing my card. He was forging my signature. He was writing checks to himself or to cash from my account. I checked the dates in the notebook against the bank transactions on my phone. They matched. Every single one. The $200 withdrawal matched a date where he had written my name 10 times in a row. The $500 withdrawal matched a date where he had written my name 20 times. He had been doing this for months. Maybe longer. Maybe for years. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the notebook, and I cried. Not the kind of crying where tears just fall. The kind of crying where your whole body shakes. Where you make sounds you didn't know you could make. Where you have to put your hand over your mouth so the neighbors don't hear. I cried for my father. I cried for the money. But mostly, I cried for the woman I used to be. The woman who trusted her husband completely. That woman was gone. She died in that moment, sitting on that bed, holding that brown leather notebook. The betrayal was not just about the money. The money was bad, but it was not the worst part. The worst part was the lies. He had looked me in the eye thousands of times and lied. He had kissed me goodnight, held my hand in the car, told me he loved me while we watched TV, and all the while he was stealing from me. Not from us. From me. There is a difference. A marriage is supposed to be a partnership. A team. He had turned me into an opponent. He had turned my love into a weapon against me. For a week, I didn't say anything. I pretended everything was normal. I made his coffee in the morning. I packed his lunch. I smiled when he came home. I asked about his day. I listened to him complain about his boss. I nodded at the right times. I laughed at his jokes. But inside, I was building a case. I was watching him. I was learning him. I was becoming someone I did not recognize. That first week, I went to the bank and asked for copies of every canceled check from the last 6 months. The teller, a nice young woman named Chloe, knew me. She had helped me open that account years ago. She saw my face and asked if I was okay. I said yes, but my voice cracked. She didn't push. She just printed the copies and put them in an envelope. I thanked her and left. When I got home, I spread the checks out on the kitchen table. So I started planning. The first thing I did was open a new bank account at a different bank. A small credit union across town where no one knew me or Mark. It was called Valley Credit Union. It was in a strip mall between a laundromat and a pizza place. The woman who opened my account was named Rosa. She had kind eyes and a warm smile. She did not ask why I was opening a new account. She just did her job and wished me well. I transferred all my freelance payments to that account. I told my clients that I had changed banks for tax reasons. They did not question it. People don't question small things. That is what Mark had counted on. Now I was counting on it too. Then, I went back to my old bank and withdrew almost all the remaining money from my personal account. I left only $300 in there. I wanted Mark to think there was still something to steal. I wanted him to feel safe. I wanted him to get comfortable. A greedy thief is a predictable thief. I learned that from a movie I watched late one night when I couldn't sleep. Then I started watching him. Really watching him. I noticed things I had never noticed before. He would come home and immediately check his phone in the bathroom. He would sit on the toilet for 20 minutes, but I knew he wasn't using the bathroom. I could hear him typing. I could hear him laughing quietly at something on the screen. He would make calls in the garage, with the door closed. He had started buying new clothes. Expensive jeans that cost over $100. A leather jacket that looked like something from a movie. Shoes that cost more than our grocery bill for a month. When I asked about them, he said they were gifts from a client. Lies. Beautiful, smooth lies. He said them without blinking. He said them while looking me in the eye. He had become very good at lying. Practice makes perfect, I guess. I also noticed that he was more affectionate. He would hug me longer in the morning. He would tell me I was beautiful before I had even brushed my hair. He bought me flowers twice in 1 week. Red roses, my favorite. That was the cruelest part. The guilt was making him nice. He was stealing from me and then trying to buy my forgiveness with cheap roses from the grocery store. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the flowers at his face, but I smiled. I said thank you. I put the flowers in a vase and watched them die. And every time I looked at those dying flowers, I felt my love for him die a little more. 2 weeks into my silent revenge, I found the receipt. I was looking for a hair tie in the glove compartment of his truck. He had left the truck unlocked, which was rare. He was usually so careful. He locked everything. His phone, his computer, his truck. But that day, he was in a hurry. He had forgotten something inside the house and ran back in. The truck door was open. I reached into the glove compartment. No hair tie, but I found a receipt from a jewelry store, not a cheap one. A real jewelry store, the kind with a security guard and velvet boxes and a door that you have to be buzzed into. The receipt was for $1,500. It was dated the same day as a $400 check he had forged from my account. $400 from me? $1,500 worth of jewelry. That was the math of our marriage. I did not find any jewelry in the truck. I looked under the seats. I looked in the center console. Nothing. So I assumed he had hidden it somewhere else. Maybe in his closet, maybe in the garage, or maybe it was for me. Maybe he was planning to surprise me with a necklace to cover up the theft. The thought made me sick. But then I had another thought. A darker thought. What if it was not for me? What if there was someone else? I did not want to believe it. I really did not. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that Mark loved me. I told myself that he was just a thief, not a cheater. But once the idea entered my mind, it grew like a weed. I started remembering all the late nights. The times he did not answer his phone. The way he had stopped looking at me when we were intimate. The way he would turn off the lights. The way he would close his eyes. I decided to follow him. It was a Friday. He said he had a site visit in the next town over, about an hour away. He said he would be home late. He said not to wait up. I put the kids at Jen's house. She did not ask questions. She just hugged me and said, "Go get him." I parked my car 3 blocks away from our house and waited. I had a good view of our driveway. At 6 o'clock, he came out. He was wearing his new leather jacket and his expensive jeans. He had put on cologne. He had combed his hair. He looked like he was going on a date. My stomach turned. He got in his truck and drove. I followed him at a distance. I stayed 2 or 3 cars behind. I did not use my headlights until I had to. He drove to a restaurant, a fancy Italian place on the other side of town. It had candles on the tables and white tablecloths. I parked across the street. I watched him go inside. 10 minutes later, a woman walked in. She was younger than me, maybe 25. She had long blonde hair that fell in waves down her back. She was wearing a tight red dress and high heels. She looked like she had stepped out of a magazine. She walked straight to Mark's table and kissed him on the lips, not a peck on the cheek. A real kiss. The kind of kiss that says, I have been waiting for this all day. The kind of kiss that says, I own you. I sat in my car and watched them through the window for an hour. I watched them laugh. I watched them hold hands across the table. I watched him feed her a piece of his dessert. I watched her lick the fork. I watched him stare at her like she was the only person in the world. I felt something inside me break. But at the same time, something else was born. Something cold and hard. It was not sadness. It was not anger. It was determination. I did not cry. I did not scream. I just watched. And I remembered. I drove back to Jen's house, picked up the kids, and took them home. I put them to bed. I read them 2 stories each. I kissed their foreheads. I told them I loved them. And then I went to my office and I started writing, not a letter to Mark. A plan. I wrote down everything I knew, every date, every amount, every lie. I wrote down the name of the restaurant. I wrote down what the blonde woman was wearing. I wrote down the way Mark had kissed her. I wrote it all down because I knew that someday I would need to remember. Someday he would try to make me feel crazy. He would try to make me feel like I was overreacting. And I would have my notebook. My own brown leather notebook, full of his crimes. I called a lawyer the next Monday, not a divorce lawyer. A forensic accountant. His name was Mr. Delgado. He was a quiet, serious man with gray hair and kind eyes. His office was small and clean. There was a picture of his grandchildren on his desk. I showed him the checks, the bank statements, the notebook. I showed him everything. He looked at each piece of paper carefully. He did not rush. He asked questions. When did I first notice? How long had it been going on? Did I have any proof that he had access to my checks? I answered everything. My voice was steady. I was proud of that. After a long time, he leaned back in his chair. He folded his hands. He said, Sarah, this is fraud, plain and simple. We can prove it, but I need to ask you something. Do you want to put him in jail? I thought about it. I really did. Jail would mean the kids would lose their father. It would mean headlines in the local paper. It would mean a trial. It would mean years of pain and lawyers and court dates. It would mean Emma and Leo growing up with a father in prison. But then I thought about the woman in the red dress. I thought about the $1,500 for jewelry. I thought about the way he had practiced my signature, like I was just a signature, not a person. I thought about the notebook full of my name. No, I said, I don't want him in jail. I want him to lose everything else. Mr. Delgado nodded. He did not smile. He was not the kind of man who smiled at revenge, but his eyes softened. He understood. Then we need to set a trap, he said. The trap was simple. Beautifully simple. Mr. Delgado explained that since Mark was forging my signature on checks from my personal account, I could use that account to lure him into a much bigger crime. All I had to do was make it look like I had received a large sum of money. Money that would be too tempting for him to ignore. Greedy people cannot resist temptation. That is their weakness. And I was going to use that weakness to destroy him. So I did. I transferred $10,000 from my new credit union account into my old personal account. I made sure the deposit happened on a day when Mark was home sick. He was lying on the couch, pretending to watch TV. He had a blanket over his legs. He looked harmless. He looked like the man I had married. But I knew better. I saw him glance at his phone. I saw his eyes widen. He sat up a little straighter. He looked at me. He looked back at his phone. He looked at me again. His eyes lit up. He loved surprises, especially when he thought they involved money. He rubbed his hands together like a cartoon villain. Oh yeah, what is it? Sit down at the kitchen table, I said. I'll show you. He sat down. He was still smiling. He had no idea. He thought I was going to give him more money. He thought I was going to tell him about another big freelance job. He thought I was his personal ATM. He was wrong. I went to my office and got the box. It was a cardboard box, the kind you get from the post office. Inside the box was everything. The copies of the forged checks, the bank statements, the notebook with his practice signatures, the receipt from the jewelry store, the printed photo of him kissing Tiffany at the Italian restaurant, and a letter I had written over many sleepless nights. I put the box on the kitchen table in front of him. "Open it," I said. He opened it, he looked inside. He pulled out the notebook first, he opened it. He saw his own handwriting. He saw my name over and over. His face went pale, then red, then pale again. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked like a fish out of water. He looked like a man who had just realized he was not as smart as he thought he was. "Sit down, Mark," I said. My voice was calm. I was proud of how calm it was. I had practiced this moment in the mirror 100 times. "You are already sitting. Good." He looked up at me. His eyes were wide. His hands were shaking. He dropped the notebook on the table. It landed with a soft thud. "I know everything," I said. "I know about the money. I know about Tiffany. I know about the trips you've been taking with her using my money. I know about the jewelry. I know about the restaurant. I know about the phone calls in the garage. I know it all. I have known for weeks, maybe months. I have been waiting. I have been watching. I have been documenting. And now, Mark, now it is my turn." He started to cry, real tears, or maybe fake ones. I could not tell anymore. He had lied so many times. He had cried so many times. His tears meant nothing to me. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was going to tell you. I have a problem. I'm a gambler. I lost a lot of money. I did not know how to tell you. And Tiffany, she means nothing. She was there. She was easy. She did not ask questions. Please, Sarah, please forgive me." "Stop," I said. My voice was hard now, harder than I knew it could be. Do not make excuses. Do not blame gambling. Do not blame Tiffany. Do not blame anyone but yourself. You did not just steal money. You stole my trust. You stole my sense of safety. You stole years of my life. You practiced my signature, Mark. Like I was a homework assignment, like I was nothing, like I was just a name on a check." He reached for my hand. I pulled it away. I stepped back. I put the kitchen island between us. "There is more," I said. I pulled out the letter from the box. I unfolded it. I read it aloud. My voice did not shake. My hands did not shake. I was made of stone. "Dear Mark, by the time you read this, I will be gone. I have taken the kids to a place you will never find. The police have a copy of all the evidence. So does Mr. Delgado. If you try to find us, I will press charges. If you try to take money from any account with my name on it, I will press charges. If you so much as breathe in my direction, I will press charges. But here is the real revenge. The $30,000 you stole from me. I let you take it. I set you up. Every single check you forged in the last month was a trap. I recorded the dates. I recorded the amounts. I have you on video from the bank's security cameras. You are going to pay every penny back plus interest, or I will destroy you in court. But that is not the worst part." I paused. He was crying harder now. Snot and tears and sweat. His face was red and wet. He looked like a child. A spoiled, selfish child who had finally been told no. "The worst part," I continued, "is that the house? It is in my name. My father bought it for us as a wedding gift. It was never in your name. The car you drive, in my name. The credit cards you use, in my name. I am going to cancel them all tonight. You will leave this house tomorrow morning with nothing but the clothes on your back. And Tiffany, she does not know you are broke. She thinks you are rich. She thinks you have money. Good luck explaining that to her. Good luck explaining that you are nothing, that you have nothing, that you are a thief and a liar and a fraud." He stood up. His chair fell over behind him. His face was twisted with rage. His hands were clenched into fists. For a second, I was scared. I thought he might hit me. I thought he might attack me. But I had one more thing. I pulled out my phone. I had already dialed 911. I just had not pressed call yet. The number was on the screen. All I had to do was touch it. "If you touch me," I said, "I will press this button. And then you will go to jail for assault and fraud. You will go to jail, Mark. You will sit in a cell. You will wear an orange jumpsuit. You will eat prison food. And your kids will visit you once a month if they visit you at all. Is that what you want? Is that worth it?" He looked at the phone. He looked at me. He looked at the box full of evidence. He sat back down. He put his head in his hands. He sobbed. Loud, ugly sobs, the kind of sobs that come from deep in the chest. I felt nothing. I had cried all my tears already. I had cried them in the car. I had cried them in the shower. I had cried them while the kids were at school. I had no tears left for him. I walked to the door. The kids were already in the car with Jen. She had come over while I was talking to Mark. I had texted her. One word. Now, she had come. She was waiting in the driveway, engine running. I could see her through the window. She was looking at me. She was my witness. She was my friend. I turned back one last time. Mark was sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by his crimes. The notebook, the checks, the photo, the receipt. He looked small. He looked broken. He looked like a man who had lost everything. But I felt no pity. Pity is for people who make mistakes. He had not made a mistake. He had made choices. Hundreds of choices. Thousands of choices. Every time he picked up a pen. Every time he signed my name. Every time he kissed Tiffany. Every time he lied to my face. Those were choices, and now he was facing the consequences. "Goodbye, Mark," I said, and I walked out. I did not look back. I got in my car. I drove away. Jen followed me in her car. We drove for an hour, then 2 hours, then 3. We drove until we were in a different state. We drove until the sun came up. We drove until the kids woke up and asked where we were. I told them we were going on an adventure. They were young enough to believe me. They were young enough to be excited. They did not know that their father was sitting alone in an empty house, crying at a kitchen table. They did not know that their mother had just destroyed their father. They just knew that we were driving. And that is all they needed to know. That was 6 months ago. I am writing this from a small apartment in a town he will never find. The apartment has 2 bedrooms, one for me, one for the kids. It is small, it is not fancy, but it is ours. No one forged my signature here. No one lied to me here. No one kissed another woman and then came home and kissed me. Here I am safe. Here I am free. The kids are happy. They do not know the details. They just know that Daddy made some bad choices and we needed to live somewhere else for a while. Emma asks about him sometimes. She asks if he misses her. I say yes, that is true. He does miss her. He calls every Sunday. I let him talk to them for 15 minutes. No more. I listen to every word. I record every call. I am done trusting. Someday, when they are older, I will tell them the truth. I will tell them that their mother was not a victim. I will tell them that their mother was a survivor. I will tell them that their father was a thief, but that does not mean they have to be. I will tell them that love is beautiful, but love does not pay the bills. I will tell them what my father told me. Always have your own money. Always. Mark paid back every penny. He had to sell his truck. He had to sell his leather jacket. He had to sell his expensive shoes. He had to move in with his mother. He is 42 years old, living in his childhood bedroom. Tiffany left him the day after he told her he was broke. She did not even say goodbye. She just stopped answering his calls. He lost his job because the company found out about the fraud. His boss was a friend of my father's. The news spread fast. He lost his friends. One by one, they stopped returning his calls. He lost everything, everything he stole, everything he thought he had, everything he took for granted. And me, I am rebuilding. I have my freelance work. I have my kids. I have my dignity. I have a new bank account that only I can access. I have a new rule. I check my bank account every single day. I check it in the morning with my coffee. I check it at night before I go to sleep. I will never be surprised again. I will never be blind again. I will never trust anyone with my name. My name is mine. My signature is mine. My money is mine. And no one, not even the man I loved, will ever take it from me again. Sometimes, late at night, when the kids are asleep and the apartment is quiet, I think about Mark. I think about the way he looked at the kitchen table, the way his face crumbled, the way he sobbed, and I feel something. But it is not pity. It is not love. It is not sadness. It is relief. Relief that I am free. Relief that I am not his ATM anymore. Relief that I am not his wife anymore. Relief that I am just Sarah, just me. My name is Sarah. And this is how I caught him. This is how I won. This is how I took back my life, one forged signature at a time.